Hey, all right, so we're here to talk about goal tests, right? Specifically how to write them in a way that they become exceptionally powerful and just useful and valuable. And so the first thing I want to do is just start with an example, right? And let's take a look at the elements of a really decent goal test. So here's the statement, right? The goal test statement. I am sending at least one email a day to people who otherwise may not have heard from me that day. So reading that, it seems like it's already pretty clear what we need to be doing there and what we're testing against. But let's take a look at the important elements in this particular piece. Number one is the action. What specific action are we testing against and setting a goal for? In this case, it is sending at least one email. Two components, the action, sending, and then the volume of it. In this case, one email, but it could be two, right? The second factor is this factor of frequency. How often we do it and in what time period. In this case, it is a day or per day. But for example, this whole goal test could also be written as I'm sending at least 5 emails per week. To me, that's almost the same, and it's just a sort of a preference of how you feel what would work better for you. Do you want to batch it up and do it 1 times 5, or having a daily habit of 1 email a day? It just really depends. And then the third and just as important, if not more important, element is any rules and conditions, any specific things that apply to this particular goal test, right? In this case, is that the email has to go to somebody that normally would have not heard from you that day because of how your business is running. Because the point is pretty clear. If we were to leave that out, it is almost certain you will always match that particular goal test, because I'm sure you're sending at least 1 email a day to somebody in your network. Right. So why don't we go through a few examples and start by looking at this one here. It says, did I send a follow-up email to at least 8 to 10 people that I met with? The key thing here that I think is important is this notion of 8 to 10, 8 out of 10. Why do we put that in there? Well, one big mistake that I think people always do with goal setting is that they set them in a scenario of perfection. If you're like me, you're a bit of a perfectionist and you are chasing that perfect goal. But the problem with the perfect goal is that the fewest of us are actually reaching it. And if you're a mere mortal like I am, likelihood that you're not going to quite get there is very high. And so it makes you going to feel like you failed, even though you probably were very good at it. That's why 8 out of 10, that's about 80%. That's still very, very good. And it's actually achievable. It's a stretch goal on one end, but it's also achievable. Next goal statement was, I'm logging personal interests, professional challenges, and any kind of unique facts that I learned at least 4 out of 5 times when I met somebody. I think that stands for itself. One thing you see here is that we went very specific on what needs to be logged. So specificity is a very good thing. Next one is, in 4 to 5 meetings, did I walk away having offered something of value? And here you see I use the word could, and that is a bit of a fuzzy thing that I could have offered, because I don't really care about with this goal test, I don't care about that you actually offered it. It's more that you had the idea of what you can offer. But for example, if you want to be very specific and really motivate, you just say, did I offer something? Like without the word could. That's why this is a great example. Last one on this page is, in at least 4 out of 5 meetings, did I know ahead of time what I wanted to get out of that meeting? Again, a very specific goal test that focuses on you getting more value, more ROI out of the meetings that you have. All right, let's move on to the next page and take a look at the remaining 4 examples I have. We'll skip the first one because that's the one that we already took a look at. But this one is, have I sent something of value to at least 3 of my contacts? If I thought the thoughts, wow, this is really valuable. Again, this one is interesting because it sort of relies on something that might or might not happen. We know that you'll probably have 5 to 10 meetings or more a week. So running a goal test against that is easy. This one is basically reliant on you thinking certain thoughts. In this case, is it valuable? And then not only thinking those things, but being aware that you thought those thoughts. And so it's a harder goal test to achieve, yet a very good example of something that's perfectly fine in my view. This is one related to networking events. And then the last one is focusing very much on the idea of keeping track of the commitments as the first step of ensuring that you fulfill all of the commitments that you're actually making, because that's a very powerful way to differentiate. So a bunch of really good examples here. What I want to move on to right now is talking about once you did this homework of writing your goal tests, how do you know it's a good one, right? And so there are three things that I really want you to test with every single item, every single statement that you write. Number one is, are they tactical, pragmatic, and very clear, right? That's important. It's got to be hands-on. It's got to be very action-inducing, and there needs to be a very, very profound clarity around what you need to do. That leads me to basically the second point. And the second point is, you got to ask yourself, if you move yourself into the future, say 6 months or 3 months, and you look back and you ask yourself this goal test, you read the goal test, can you always, with absolute clarity, answer the question in a yes or no way? Is it very objective, right? The third thing is it completely free of ambiguity? Right? Because one of the things we don't want you to have is an out, right? Because then, is it fuzzy, so fuzzy that if you've done a little bit, you can say yes, or if you've done an amazing job, you could say yes. No, it needs to be absolutely clear. You either did hit the mark or you missed the mark, yes or no. Okay? So those were those three, but I think the most important one we totally missed out, and that is this one. Do they feel right? You gotta test that. They gotta feel right, and they gotta feel right on a gut level. Can't stress this more often, right? And what I mean with that is, do they resonate with you? Does your experience, and most of you watching this video probably have some sort of experience, professional experience under the belt, and therefore probably have some sort of gut level reaction to what you're writing down. And what it should be something like, you gotta feel like, if I do these things consistently and regularly, that will have a profound impact on the goals that I'm pursuing, on me being able to achieve the success I'm chasing. Does it almost get you excited? It's like, yes, if I do this for 3 months and I look back that I did this, it's going to be good for me. Very simple. The second test is basically look back at your North Star objective that you've written, specifically the path component of that North Star objective, right? And test, does this action support the path that I laid out? If we take the example of the VP of sales who basically said, my path is by delivering a consistent, highly valuable experience to every prospect I work with, from the day I meet them, connect with them first, to the time they decide to buy our products, right? So if you look at the goal tests here, you could see that many of them would support that notion of delivering a high value experience. And so that's what we want you to do when you are working on this goal test. Hope this was helpful, and goodbye.